Hello, today we are here at MCG Jazz in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I am delighted to be with pianist Frank Cunimondo, who happens to be from Pittsburgh himself. Frank, it's a great pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
So, of course, you're with us today. You've been in this space many times at MCG Jazz, but tomorrow you will be performing for us, so
Yes.
I'm very excited to enjoy your concert. I wanted to talk to you about an amazing career that you've had. So you started playing piano at the age of 5.
Yes.
And continue to play to this day, obviously. Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired you? Of course, at age 5, your parents probably just told you to start playing piano, but what continued to inspire you about playing piano and saxophone throughout your career and to continue doing it every day, whether it be the audiences or the music? What was it that inspired you?
Well, I didn't think about it. At that age, at 5 years old, you don't really think about those things. You just do what you're supposed to do. My parents took me to the piano teacher, Evelina Palmieri, who was considered the best classical piano teacher in Pittsburgh. They took me there to her, and every Thursday for the next how many years, until I was 18 years old, I studied with her. And it was just thing I was supposed to do. It wasn't anything that was like I had to do. It just was natural for me to do that. And she was a very good teacher, and I had to play concerts at least twice a year there. She would have concerts and I'd have to play. So I grew up with Miss Palmieri, and all through the years I played my classical music, and I was always into jazz. You know, I used to listen to all the jazz stations in Pittsburgh, and I was always fascinated with jazz, so naturally I would tinker around with that. Of course, I couldn't let her know that because she was a classical teacher and
Sure.
was not really interested in jazz. So by the time I was 11 years old, and having been a student of Miss Palmieri's for all those years, I graduated from grade school and went into Westinghouse High School at the age of 11 years old in 7th grade.
Okay.
And that was the biggest thing in my life. Westinghouse High School transformed me into what I really wanted to do, you know, to be a jazz player.
Okay.
And we had fantastic musicians there at that time.
And that's the legendary Cadets,
The
right?
Cadets was the name of the swing band. It was an 18-piece band. And the musical director there was brought there. He was an ex-big band trumpet player in, I think, the late 30s and early 40s. His name was Carl McVicker.
Okay.
And he was the head of the music department there, and he created a beginner's orchestra. And then if you went to beginner's orchestra, you learned how to play a certain instrument, then you could go to junior orchestra and junior band. And then he had the senior orchestra and senior band, the marching band, and then the Cadets, which was what everybody wanted to do, but there was only room for 18 people, so it was not easy to get into that band. I was very fortunate to get into that band at the age of 11 years old. And the piano player there, one of my favorite people in the world, and still is, former Freddie Jones, who became Ahmad Jamal, one of my favorite pianists. I was very influenced by him. And before him, Earl Garner was the pianist. And Billy Strayhorn was the composer and arranger. And we had so many great musicians there at that time that became famous in America from that band called the Cadets. So I was very privileged to be in that band. I spent 5.5 years. And by the time I was 13 years old, I started to play professionally. And I would get jobs like picnics and weddings and stuff like that, you know.
So do you think at that age, was it the ability to work and get out and just play? And what was it about the music that
I didn't think about anything. Everything just happened so natural with me. It was just
Beautiful.
natural that all these years I've been playing, that now I'm doing it, playing gigs, you know, I'm playing professionally. I didn't think about it. I just did it, you know. It was no big deal to me, you know.
So when you went from high school, did you just,
Well,
of course, go into college to study music? That was an obvious for you?
Yeah, I eventually went to Carnegie Tech, but what happened was during the period when I hit 13 years old and I started to play, you know, my little jobs here and there.
On the weekends, I love it.
By the time I was 14, 15 years old, I was playing pretty steady and making a little bit of money. I never had to ask my parents for money, thank God, you know. And by the time I was about 16 years old, I was working 6 nights a week from 9 o'clock to 2 in the morning. The gigs then were 5 hours long.
That is so fascinating.
So,
You know, what amazes me is that that probably couldn't happen today, right?
not right now.
Yeah, well, of course, not right now in these
But
days. Right?
no, it's not the same. The scene is not the same now as it used to be. We had so many nightclubs in Pittsburgh. I have a lot of people that want to talk to me about all the nightclub scene in Pittsburgh. Well, we had basically about 125 nightclubs in Pittsburgh that had jazz music.
Well, and I'm jumping around a little bit in your career, but in the 80s, I think it was from 1983 to
1983 is when I opened my own club, yeah.
You had your own club. So how was that to be able to provide live music in your own space?
Well, the one thing was I could play whatever I wanted to play.
Well, sure,
You know,
right.
sometimes whenever you're playing jobs, like the club owners may not want you to play, maybe you're playing too loud or you're doing too much of this or too much of that, you know, and they want you to tone down. I did whatever I wanted to do with my own club, naturally, so that was a great thing to me.
How many nights a week were you open?
6 nights a week, Monday
Okay.
through Saturday. And I featured a lot of the great musicians here in Pittsburgh there. Also people like Dakota Staten and other people that I brought in from New York. And I played there with my trio every night. And when I had the other groups playing there, I would do the intermission, you know.
Right.
So it was a great experience for me having control, not only of having a club of mine, but of my music. You know, I could play what I wanted to play and nobody was going to tell me what to play.
I love it. I love it.